you can go ahead and hang on to or put your worksheet 3 away since we just completed a quick copy from your homework quiz on that. I will try to get those quizzes graded and back to you by Monday. And today, we're going to forge ahead and we're going to start learning about the enharmonic possibilities or potential, I should say, of the fully diminished seventh chord. You may remember a couple classes ago I had said that there are two chords or sonorities in tonal music that when some of their notes are respelled enharmonically, they become function as different chords in completely different keys, and so they pause and create interval modulations between keys. One of those sonorities that we have already talked now about at length is the major minor seventh chord, the dominant seventh sound. We know that that is enharmonic with the German sixth, and we also know that a major minor seventh can always function as a 5/7 in a particular key. So it turns out that the sonority or the sound of a major minor seventh chord leads in two different directions in terms of keys. If the major minor seventh chord sound is treated and resolved as a German sixth, it's going to lead to one key. But if it is treated as, viewed as, and resolved as a 5/7, it's going to lead to a different key. So this chord can actually lead to two different keys. You can go in two different directions based on how it's resolved. But the other chord that I mentioned a couple classes ago about that can function in multiple keys at the same time because of its enharmonic possibilities is the fully diminished seventh chord. Okay. The fully diminished seventh chord possesses the ability to lead in four different directions, or it has the ability to lead to four keys. Okay? So for instance, it can go to one key, another key, all these keys are different by the way, a third key, and finally a fourth key. 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the reason that this is possible with the fully diminished seventh chord is because the chord is a symmetrical chord. We've probably mentioned over the semesters that when you spell a fully diminished seventh chord, let me go ahead and put one up here on the board. How about one is C sharp, E, G, B flat. We've talked over the semesters about how to spell a fully diminished seventh chord. All you have to do is just stack all the notes in intervals of minor thirds. Okay. So from the root up to the third of this chord is a minor third. From the third up to the fifth of the chord is another minor third. And from the fifth up to the seventh of the chord is yet another minor third stacked on top of each other. Okay. The fact that the chord consists of just stacked minor thirds makes it something called a symmetrical chord. And that means if you were to read the interval content of the chord from the bottom up, you would get minor third, minor third, minor third. But if you read the interval content of the chord from the top down, you get the exact same thing, don't you? Minor third, minor third, minor third. And so because it's built entirely of minor thirds, the interval content, as I said, reading the chord from top to bottom or from bottom to top is the same. And as a result, when this chord is heard but not seen, it's impossible to tell which of the four pitches of the chord is the root. Now, I'm going to play that sound. And because you can see the way I've spelled it, you can tell which chord or which pitch is the root. You can see that C sharp is the root, right? But could I also not be playing, what if I was playing this chord here? chord not sound exactly like this one? And where's the root? Which pitch is the root of this chord? The E, right? E, G, B, D. But couldn't I also be playing that the same chord on the piano? Couldn't I say that, oh, I'm actually playing this one? Because does not this chord sound exactly like this chord, it sounds exactly like this chord? Or if I went to the piano and played the same thing, could I not be actually playing this chord too? Doesn't this chord sound exactly like this chord, or sound exactly like this chord? So when I go to the piano and I play this fully diminished seventh sound, how do you know I'm not playing the one with E as root, or the one with G as a root, or the one with an A sharp as the root? In other words, how do you know that I'm playing the chord in root position or in any of these three inversions? You don't. Just by hearing it, you don't. So it's impossible to tell just by hearing it whether the chord is in inversion or not, and which of the four pitches is the root. So if we take a fully diminished seventh sound, and we enharmonically spell it four different ways, as I did here, and I've done it so that each of the four pitches of the original chord serves as the root, then we might be able to see how the chord fits or functions logically in four different keys. It could fit or function logically as a 7 diminished 7 in four different keys at the same time. Okay, so let's just review kind of what I did here. How do I get this chord, which sounds the same as all of these, how do I get it to be spelled four different ways so that it would function as a 7-7 in four different keys? Well, this is how you do it. I just take each of the notes of the original chord and in turn have each of the notes treat that as the root, or have that note serve as the root of the spelling of my fully diminished seventh chord. So for instance, in this spelling I've got C sharp, E, G, B flat. And C sharp is the root. And we know that in a 7 diminished seventh chord, the root of these chords is always T of the key, right? So in what key would this particular spelling, in what key would this be a 7 diminished 7? If the root is T of the key. Say again? Now B, if C sharp is scale degree 7, D, right? This would be a 7 diminished 7 in the key of D. And for right now, it doesn't matter if it's major or minor, as long as it's real key. But what did I do over here? I said, okay, C sharp has had the term being the root. Let's go up to the next note. Let's enharmonically spell this chord without moving any of the pitches, but consider E to be the root. How do you spell a fully diminished 7 on E? E, G, B flat, D flat. I have E, G, B flat, and isn't this pitch enharmonic with a D flat? So in this case, by enharmonically respelling one of the notes, I can get it spelled correctly as if E is the root. But see, I'm not moving the pitches or anything, I'm just sliding them over and enharmonically respelling what I need so that the chord is spelled properly with the root I've chosen. Okay? Now, this happens to be in what inversion? The seventh chord. Say again. 4-2, right? Third inversion. You see the seventh is on the bottom. And if E is the root, the way it's spelled, in what key would this be a 7 diminished 4-2? F. That's right. Because the root of these chords is always the leading tone of the key. Okay, then to get this chord, I said, well, I've treated C sharp as the root and E as the root. Let's try G as the root. how do you spell a fully diminished seventh chord on G? Well, it should be G, B flat, D flat, F flat. Correct? Well, look, G, B flat, that's enharmonic with D flat, that's enharmonic with F flat. So I don't move or rearrange the notes. I just slide them over where they are, respelling the notes I needed enharmonically to fit the spelling when G serves as the root. So I have G, B flat, D flat, and F flat. And it sounds exactly like these others. Well, as a 7 diminished chord, what inversion is this 7th chord in? Second inversion. And if G is the root, in what key would this serve or function as a 7/7? Okay, and then finally, what I could do here, I could say, well, I've got to let B flat serve as the root. And so I could go and say, how do I spell a fully diminished 7th chord on B flat? B flat, B flat, F flat, A double flat. I don't even want to go down that road. I don't like to use double flats and sharps. So all I did was I just enharmonically respelled this note as A sharp. And I've got a different 7th, or I've got the same sound, but a different root, right? A sharp, C sharp, and G. And I just did it this way because I didn't want to use double flats. So this is also a fully diminished 7th chord. And what inversion is this one? First inversion. And if A sharp is the root, in what key would it be a 7 diminished 7? B, right? Doesn't matter if you pick major or minor, as long as they're real keys. So, I guess what I'm saying is, when I go to the piano, and I play this sound, you don't know which of those 4 chords I'm playing, because they all sound identical, because the chord is symmetrical. I could be playing this one, this one, this one, or this one, and you won't know which one I'm playing until the chord resolves. And when the chord resolves, whatever key it resolves in, then that's the spelling, or that's the way I was viewing or treating that chord. Okay? But do you see how one fully diminished 7th chord, all stacked minor thirds, it could actually function in 4 different keys at the same time? And I took my marker over there. So what this means, and composers and musicians, they've known this for a long time. They've actually exploited and used this to modulate to different keys. For instance, if I have a 7 diminished 7 chord in the key of D, doesn't that sound exactly the same as a 7 diminished 4/3 in the key of A flat major? So I can modulate from D with 2 sharps in the key to A flat major with 4 flats in the key signature just by using this diminished 7th sound. And I would just resolve this chord as one of these rather than as one of these. And I'd be off and running in A flat major. So I guess I'm saying that these chords are all interchangeable. You can use any combination of these chords in any direction for any pivot chord to get from one key to any of the other keys. And I don't know if it might take a while for this to sink in, and we're going to spend several classes on this, but when you think about it, this is really amazing, powerful stuff. Because I mean, can you imagine modulating from B minor to A flat major? But you can do it just like that. Because you can use this one diminished 7th sound, which functions logically in both keys. In fact, it functions logically in all 4 keys at the same time. Okay? So, I think we need to do one more of these examples, and then I'll let you go. Let's try another one. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just pick. Okay. Let's start with this one. Help me respell this chord enharmonically so that it fits in a different, it'll be in a different inversion in three additional keys. All right. Let's treat each one of these four pitches as the root. This one I've treated F sharp as the root. Let's go over here. Let's spell the chord with A as the root. How do you spell fully diminished 7 on A? A, C, E flat, G flat, right? Don't move the pitches. A, C, E flat, and the G flat will be down here because it's enharmonic with the F sharp, right? Okay. This is a 7 diminished what inversion? Or 2. And what key would it function in? If A is the root, B flat. You can pick major or minor, that's fine as long for the. Let's do it one more time. This time let's try C as the root. How do you spell a fully diminished 7th chord on C? C, E flat, G flat, E double flat. Well, I'll give in to this one. Okay, C, E flat, G flat, B double flat. You see, I didn't move the pitches. But this sounds exactly the same as all these other ones I just spelled. What inversion is this chord in? Second inversion. And if C is the root, what key would this function as a 7 chord in? D what? D flat. Okay. Now you have to pick D flat major here because D flat minor is not a real key. Okay, and finally, let's have this one serve as the root, E flat. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a million double flats. I just want to think of this as D sharp. Okay, how do you spell a fully diminished 7th chord on D sharp? D sharp, F sharp, A, C. Well, look at that. All I have to do is respell that one and I got the rest. So D sharp, F sharp, A, and C. And what inversion is this chord in? First inversion. And if D sharp is the root, what key would this chord function in as a 7th set? E. They pick E major or minor, it doesn't matter. So do you see how when you do it correctly, you're going to have all four of the bass positions represented. It's going to be root position, 3rd inversion, 2nd inversion, 1st inversion. Also, this is really cool. Maybe I'll leave us with this. Look at the keys that you can actually go to when you respell a fully diminished 7th chord enharmonically 4 different ways. Don't the keys themselves spell a fully diminished 7th? E, G, B, flat, B. Well, that's another way to know that you're doing it right, because all four of your final keys will spell diminished 7th. Gosh, I wish I would have had like 5 or 10 more minutes to go through a little bit more. This just scratches the surface, but I think you'll have enough to complete. I'm going to give you a handout. It's just one side only, and I'm hoping that you're going to have enough to knowledge to complete that. You should. Just remember that each one of the notes of the fully diminished 7th chord can serve as the root. And remember that when you're spelling it differently, the root of the chord is always T of the key. So that'll tell you what key it can function in and work with. Because these are leading tone 7th chords, so I always built on the leading tone. So take one of these, and again, it's just the front side. This is for Monday. And we'll talk more about this on Monday.
Is it a coincidence that the keys that you get are also a diminished 7?
No, it'll always work out. It'll always work out. Isn't that neat? It is all. And it doesn't matter if you enharmonically respell some of these. Like if you respell this as C sharp, it's still going to fit because it's a symmetric form. Everything is minor third. Yes, I do. Hang on one second.